begin, I need everyone to kind of help me out with something real quick. I need everyone to take out their cell phones and just text this number. There's no hidden fees, no hidden charges, and I promise you'll all find out why you're texting this number at the end. Just text, I don't care what the message is, here's the number. I'm actually going to do the same. Standard text messaging rates apply, that whole disclaimer. Send me a personal note. I promise I'll read all the notes in private. Alright, so I'm Michael. I'm a developer evangelist for Dwolla. Dwolla is a payment startup out in Des Moines, Iowa. Kind of a strange place for a startup to be, but we're trying to make it work. I'm actually based out of New York with Alex Taub, who leads business development, and together out in New York we try to get partners to integrate us and try to do big things and change how people interact with payments. I studied business law in college, which has absolutely nothing to do with what I'm doing right now. Honestly, if it was up to me, I probably wouldn't even go to college, but I do have Jewish parents, so that kind of goes without saying. On Twitter, if you want to follow me, you probably should. My Twitter handle is Bacon Season, and that's because my name and my last name is way too long for Twitter, and I have a strange sense of humor. Also, the line is cut off here, but I manage the Dwolla GitHub account. Almost everything we do, we try to open source and push out. So if you ever see anything on Dwolla that you like, any side project that we launched, feel free to grab it. I think open source is one of the bigger things and better things that happen to the program community in general. So we try to support it. I also write the occasional article or two on the dev blog. That's dev.dwolla.com. Got cut off here for some reason, but if you ever have a few extra minutes and you want to read some dev stuff from us, that's the place to be. So before I started working for Dwolla, I worked for a dating startup out in New York, and I used to watch Ben Milne. Ben Milne is the founder and CEO of Dwolla, and I used to watch talks that he gave, and I watched them on YouTube. In one of the talks, he said something that really resonated with me, and that's really what turned me onto Dwolla. And he said something along the lines of, the fundamental problem is the fact that money loses its value when we exchange it, when we exchange things. So how is it that I can take a dollar, a physical dollar, give it to Ron, and Ron will still have that full value of the dollar, and then if I do it digitally, Ron might get 90 cents out of it. It makes no sense, right? Because digitally, what happened is my bank server talked to Ron's bank server and said, hey, can you credit that account, I'll debit this account, register exchange. It didn't cost him anything. However, if I do it physically, think of everything that had to happen. Somebody had to print the money, somebody had to work. So you have labor, you have materials. I had to get that dollar somehow. And yet when I give him the dollar, it's worth more than when I digitally give him the dollar. So it really makes no sense that, it really makes no sense that in a digital world where everything's so easy to move around, giant files are easy to move around and free, we still pay money to move money around. So payments are definitely broken on that. And I'll try to kind of, outline why I think why Dwolla feels payments are broken. So for a handful of reasons, but I think these are the most important ones. It's so hard to implement it, right? I mean, how many of you guys are developers? So almost everyone. That's great, actually. And out of you guys, how many of you actually made apps and integrated payments into them, or accepted payments? So about half of the developers. And that's usually what we see in these situations. And it's usually because payments are hard to integrate. There's so many rules and regulations you have to follow. You need a special merchant account. You work on like a 7-day rolling base. There's so many things going on. You have to be PCI compliant. It's just not fun. And even when you actually go through all this, the APIs out there are pretty annoying. I mean, Stripe came out with something pretty cool, right? They have a really easy to use API. But until Stripe came out, there was PayPal. And PayPal's API is pretty hard to use. Except for that, credit cards have this really bad legacy support they have to handle. They started doing business digitally decades ago. And decades ago, technology wasn't where it's at today, and they still have to maintain it. And I'll touch on that in a minute. There's actually more to be said about legacy support. There's a lot of fraud going on, right? Credit card fraud. I mean, who here got credit card fraud last year? I actually got it twice. That's why I'm raising two hands. So, first time the bank actually caught it, and the second time the bank didn't, which was funny because at the same time I was getting charges in New York and in Washington State, and yet the bank didn't even catch this, which is ridiculous. I'm entrusting them with my most valuable asset, my money, and they can't even catch something so trivial as simultaneous payments happening in two opposite coasts. So there's a lot of fraud going on. Obviously, the more fraud we'll get, the higher the interchange fees will get because, well, they have to cover it somehow. Then they have this massive infrastructure. These are international companies. They're everywhere. They have such a high operating cost. So it makes sense that they have to charge fees. And, all these really equate to the bottom line fees. This is why it's broken, because when we move money around, we have to pay a lot of money to do that. The bigger word. How many of you guys know what COBOL is? Wow, that's actually pretty amazing. Usually I don't get that many people. Usually people don't even know what COBOL is. It's for those of you who didn't raise your hand, it stands for Common Business or Oriented Language, right?
Yes.
I remember it correctly. So it's this programming, it's a really old programming language. It started in the 60s, right? And it's used for so many things today. It's used for, almost every bank uses it. Visa, MasterCard, they're all using it. ATMs are using it. Railway systems are using it. Traffic lights are using it. It's this thing that's everywhere, and yet us web developers at least, I'm not sure what kind of developers you are, but obviously you guys know it. Us web developers barely even see it. I mean, I've actually, up until I started working at Dwolla, I've never met a single COBOL programmer. And what am I trying to say by all this? There aren't that many COBOL programmers out there, okay? And because there aren't that many, when credit card companies, banks hire them, they have to pay them a lot of money. And again, those salary and all those costs equate to big high interchange costs. So it's just a simple example, right, of COBOL. I was trying to mess around with it to kind of figure out what's going on. And it is a tech talk, so I figured some code would be nice. So this is just a basic function in C# that will change a button text when you click it. This is the same function in COBOL, which I was trying to follow, right? I mean, you're declaring the method here. Then you're saying data division, linkage section, I don't know, these things make no sense to me as a web developer. Oh, and by the way, if you forget these periods at the end of the sentence, your compiler will go crazy. So make sure you don't. Another big problem we have is fraud, right? We all carry around our credit cards in our wallets. And, every credit card has a 16-digit account number. Every time we swipe that credit card somewhere at a merchant, every time we punch those digits somewhere online, we're giving that merchant all the information they need, basically, to come in and to steal our identity and take all our money. So we're trusting that merchant to store our most valuable 16 digits, our most valuable information. I don't know why. I mean, even if that merchant knows how to store it, which they probably don't, their service provider probably doesn't either. And even if their service provider knows how to store it safely, one of the other 15 stops along the way that my credit card information makes until it makes it to Visa, one of them probably doesn't know how to store it. And if they do store it, it's probably in plain text, which is horrible. I mean, things are getting hacked left and right. I mean, LinkedIn just got hacked. eHarmony just got an email today from Last.fm that they had, users being leaked, passwords being leaked. Everything's being hacked. So when you have, your 16 digits running around free like this, and every time you want to buy something, you have to give those 16 digits. Obviously, we have a lot of fraud because, we can't control this. So what's the solution? MasterCard, for example, came out. They said MasterCard Secure Code, right? Was that 3D Secure? I always forget the name. Which is pretty cool. They came out with this whole new, extra code verification that works online, but it's only part of the solution. That only works online. And what do you do in real life scenarios? And of course, they create it, and they create these new features. And somebody has to pay for that. Somebody has to pay for that R&D. Somebody has to pay for their salaries, the division, everything. And of course, higher interchange fees. So the implementation is really weird, right? If I have 5 Visa credit cards in my wallet, I should be able to go to Visa.com and see all the cards I have and all the transactions on them. I mean, they're all Visa, right? All the transactions I make using them digitally go to Visa servers and authenticate and settle on their servers. So why is it that I can't go and see every Visa credit card I've ever had and every transaction I've ever made on those? They're all digital. This should be possible. On the same note, I should be able to go to Visa.com and see every merchant that's storing my credit card information and still is interacting. If I have recurring payments, if I have things like that, merchants are storing my information. I should be able to see a list of all merchants that are actively using my digit and revoke access. Again, this is all digital. We do such bigger things, such more complex things. This should be possible. Me as a developer, you as developers, we should have easy access to Visa themselves. We shouldn't go through 15 gateways in the process to get to them. This really should be simple, but it's not for some reason. So the interchange fee. Does everyone know what interchange fees are? And? All right, looks like we're good. So I was at the Midwest the other week, and I gave a similar talk. And when I got to interchange fees, I got some puzzled looks. So I just wanted to make sure. So 3% is probably the average. Then you pay another 30 cents fixed rate, right? On a $100 transaction, you might get $96, $97 out of those $100. Okay, so you lost $3 in the transaction. No big deal. But take that, multiply that over a year, and let's say you sold 10 of those. All of a sudden, those $3 amount to a whole lot of money. What if, I'm speaking, what if there was a speaker who came and gave a talk, and he charged $25,000 for his talk? Those things happen. There's speakers who charge a lot of money. And what if somebody paid him those $25,000 in a credit card? Out of the $25,000, we'd have to pay close to $750 just for that. Again, ridiculous. This should not happen. And by the way, when we use Stripe or Square to process a payment transaction, a credit card transaction, they get virtually nothing out of this. Nothing. Even 3% plus 30 cents, they don't see much money out of this. The real winners are Visa, MasterCard, and whoever the credit card company is. So this is where Dwolla really comes in, right? We really believe that payments should not have interchange fees. And things should be much simpler. So in a nutshell, what we are is a new payment network. We're a bank-to-bank payment network, and we cut credit cards completely out of the equation. Credit cards, debit cards, we believe that at some point there'll be a way of the path. We don't think it's going to happen right now instantly. We don't expect anybody to say, hey, from now on I'm just accepting Dwolla. We do realize it's going to be a transition, but it's something that we believe needs to happen. Why are we doing this? Again, because I believe, Dwolla believes, we all believe that just our money should not lose its value when it exchanges hands. So how we built is kind of an interesting thing. What we did is we took some strategic investors from day one. There's a lot of startups in the payment industry right now. It's kind of a hot field to be in, hot network to be in. But a lot of them are actually working illegally. And they're working legally because there's so many regulatories and there's so many regulations you have to follow. And sometimes they're impossible for startups, right? I mean, if you need a money transmission license, you're going to need a different license in every state, or 3/5 out of all the states. You're going to need millions of dollars in deposits. You're going to need lawyers doing this. Some things are just not possible for startups. So what happened with us is the first 2 years of the company, Ben Milne, the founder, CEO, actually spent the first 2 years studying the regulations, figuring out how we can survive, how we can be a viable product and still operate legally. And he actually did find it. He found ways to do it. And again, that ties into our strategic investors. I'll talk about it in a minute though. This is a tech talk, so I figure it's probably noteworthy to mention that we're a .NET shop. We use the MVC framework. I'm not a .NET developer myself. I'm more of a PHP, Ruby, Node guy. But really, we've had an excellent kind of experience with .NET and Microsoft in general. We're part of the BizSpark whole movement. Microsoft's actually been really great in terms of support, and it's worked out pretty well up until now. So we're backed by some of the usual suspects, I guess. Union Square Ventures, Thrive, Village Ventures, and even Ashton Kutcher with A-Grade. Those are all awesome investors. Okay, each of them brings his own added value to our team. But really, what probably our two biggest sources and two more earliest sources were Viridian Credit Union and TMG, the members group. Those are two of Iowa's probably biggest, some of Iowa's biggest financial institutions. And because we took them on as strategic investors, we became close enough to the Federal Reserve System where we have the ability to move money around in a very cheap way. So we can actually facilitate money transactions via ACH right now, which we'll talk about today in a minute, for next to nothing. And if we can do it, we want everyone to be able to do it, and that's why we're doing it. Also, Paige Craig is one of our investors, who's a really cool dude, and he's here in Los Angeles, so I'm sure a lot of you have either met him or heard of him. A lot of people ask us who our competitors are. You know, mostly I get, oh, Square, Stripe, they're very competitors, right? How are you dealing with them? And I don't see them as competitors at all. I think that Square and Stripe, you know, are both great companies. They're doing awesome things. I think they're aggregators. They're gateways, right? They take all these different payment methods, Amex, Visa, MasterCard, and they bring it all together, and they let you use all of them conveniently under one roof, which is awesome. And I think that they could actually use us too, right? I mean, we're just like, we're another payment type, payment method. Just like Visa, MasterCard, or Amex. You can also pay Dwolla. We're actually in talks with Square already. PayPal is kind of its own story. They have so many products going on. Some of them are competitors, some of them aren't. But you know, I would argue that even PayPal, if they use Dwolla on their backend to move money around, they could probably save money too. What we really see ourselves going up against are, again, Visa, MasterCard, Amex, Discover, the credit card companies, the big ones. And even for those, I would argue if they use Dwolla, you know, internally on the back end, they could probably save money too. I'm not sure they would agree, but that's something else. So again, what are we? We're a cash-based payment network. That means no credit cards, only bank-to-bank transactions. So our users, our members, would create an account, they link their bank account, and from there on out, they could actually move money around from their bank to other bank accounts, to other Dwolla users, really easily. I'll talk about our API in a second. So the landscape changing, right? Credit cards, we all have this muscle memory where we get to the checkout and we reach for our wallet and we grab the card and we swipe the card. It's kind of a muscle memory by this point because we're all trained to it. It's been decades of credit card usage. But things are changing. All of a sudden, we're all carrying around our cell phones in the back pocket, and we get to the checkout, and all of a sudden, the cell phone can be a checkout process too, can be a payment type. And I'm positive that in the next 2 years, we're going to see a lot more people using their cell phones at the checkout instead of their credit cards. And why? Maybe they'll give them an added bonus you don't get from credit cards. It could be added security. It could be added features. Maybe it's just their ideology that they want to change what's going on. They want to change the status quo of what we have right now. We also have a ridiculously easy to use RESTful API. We have code libraries in most languages. Languages we don't have, I'm the guy who usually writes them. And if I didn't get around to writing one in the language of your choice, you can actually just interface with our API in a RESTful manner. And we're driven by developers. So what that means is our roadmap is largely based on what developers are asking for. So we have a pretty active developers community forum, and we listen to what they ask, and we always ask them, what would you like to see next come up? What's next feature you guys want to see on our system? And that's what we try to work with. We know that developers are what's going to drive the economy. They're going to drive our future. And we want to make sure that it's easy for them to use it. And this is how we do it. So some other cool stuff about Dwolla. Any transaction you do up to $10, including $10, is completely free. For all we care, if you want to move, $100,000 around, and you have the energy to break it up to $10 increments, go for it. We're limited. There's absolutely no limits. We won't limit you in the number of transactions at all. Hey, if you want to write a script that will break up your $100,000 into $10 increments, you can do that too. We're totally okay with that. Seriously. Any transaction over $10, which means $10 sent and above, is a 25-cent flat fee. Any amount. There is a limit right now to $10,000 per transaction, which will most likely be taking off. It was very arbitrary. We won't get into that right now. But again, 25-cent flat fee right now up until $10,000, which is the maximum transaction. Again, make as many transactions as you want. We'd love to see you use our system. We're also do social payments. What that means is, sure, yeah.
Do you support international transactions?
Yeah. We do not yet. So I actually brought some T-shirts for the QA section. I was going to give you a T-shirt. I'll give you it at the end, okay? Let's just hold off for we don't have that much then. So we do social payments. What does that mean? That it means that the other party you're sending money to, it don't have to be a Dwolla user. As long as you have a uniquely identifiable way of identifying who you want to send money to, we'll be okay with it. Right now we support phone numbers, emails, Facebook IDs, Twitter IDs. If you can uniquely identify the person you want to send money to, we'll send him the money. He'll probably have to create a Dwolla account later, but he will receive his money. Now I touched a lot about fraud and the problem with 16-digit account numbers, and this is our solution to it. You don't have to give your account number to anyone anymore. It's the way we see this. It's a thing of the past. The way we work, the way we kind of structure the API is largely based on OAuth. So just like you go to a website and you say, I want to log into this website with Facebook Connect, an OAuth pop-up comes up. You say, hey, can ABC interact with your Facebook account? And you hit sure, allow. That website gets a token from Facebook. They don't get your username and password from Facebook. Why should they? Why should they get your account number? That makes no sense. The token's all they need. We work in the same way. So when you go to a site that uses our API interface, which by the way, we have more than just an API, I'll talk to that about that as well. But when you go to a website that has integrated Dwolla, and you get to the checkout, it'll say, hey, with Dwolla. You'll hit that button, and OAuth pop-up will come up and say, hey, can I get access to your account information, your contacts, your transaction details, your balance, and to send money. And you don't have to use all those. That's just the scope, Zarly wanted. You can also just send money, or just balance, or whatever you want. And now click allow. And what would happen is the website would actually get Zarly, would get a token back from our server, store that token in your database. It actually never expires. We have no expiration date on those. And interface with my account that way. The cool thing about this is that I can go to Dwolla.com later and see a list of all my active tokens, and see a list of all my active merchants, the ones who are interfacing with my account who have an active token, and I can revoke it at any time. If I don't want to do business with them anymore, it should be pretty simple, and that's how it is. Banking in the U.S. right now is, there's a lot of ways to do banking. But primarily, the way we move money around from bank to bank are using ACH. Does everyone know what ACH is? Automated clearinghouse, yeah. So it's basically an electronic way of banks communicating, with one another, moving money around. So if I want to move money around, I want to send to Joe. Right now, what they would do is use ACH. Again, it was built in the 60s, so it's pretty old, and it's still used today. It kind of sounds like COBOL again. And it was created for Social Security deposits. People wanted an automatic way of depositing Social Security, and that's what happened. Main two problems of it, it's slow and it's insecure, which I'll talk about in a minute. But it is the way we move money around right now. And just last year we moved $32 trillion in the country. That's a lot of money. This is hands down the biggest industry we have, money. So what's the problem with security and ACH at this point? Joe comes up and says, hey Michael, here's my bank account number and my routing number. My name is Joe. I'll go and take that credentials you just gave me, and I'll create an ACH connection between me, Dwolla, or me, whoever, and that bank, the bank account number he gave me. But I actually have no way of verifying that he is the rightful owner of the bank. There's no verification layer, there's no security layer on top of ACH, right? So what do we do now? We do penny tests. PayPal will deposit, 2 micro deposits into your account. You go into your account, you get the amounts, and you go to PayPal and say, yeah, that's the deposit. That's how we verify that you have access to the account you're saying. And by the way, that's what we're doing too right now, because that's how you do business nowadays. So there's no way of verifying this, which means that if I didn't do those penny tests, Joe could have given me somebody else's bank account number and routing number, and I would have pulled money or deposited money. I don't see why you'd want to deposit money if I'm stealing money, but that's besides the point. I could have been pulling money from somebody else's account, innocently thinking it's Joe's. Speed, as I mentioned, it's pretty slow. The way it was designed, it was in the 60s. It's not really, it wasn't really using technologies we have nowadays, so it definitely makes sense. You have at least 2 business days for money to move around here. You have at least 1 business day for your bank to clear it, and at least another business day for the other bank to clear it. But usually it takes 2 to 4 business days, depending on the bank you use. So not only does it cost money to use ACH, but it's also slower than actually physically exchanging money. So if Joe gave me $100, it'll be much easier and faster than if we ACH'd it. Which is, again, funny because we're in the digital age. We're moving gigs on top of gigs with Dropbox instantly, and we can't move $100. And again, it's just registers. I'm seeing this as two variables, right? Dollar amount equals and dollar amount equals, and it's like a MySQL database that stores it. Should be simple. This is where FiSync comes in, and FiSync is awesome, really. And I'll show you why I'll demo it. And this is really the next evolution of how we move money around. FiSync is basically ACH 2.0, and it actually has nothing to do with ACH. It doesn't use any of the ACH rail. It's a completely new thing. What it is a new protocol that we've developed at Dwolla, and we're giving it out to banks for free. Hey, Bank of America, use it. We're giving you something. We don't want you to pay for this. There's no licensing fees. There's no royalties. There's no fees. We don't care. Just use it, please. You know, we're giving you this thing, and now you can go off and offer your customers this extra, this new feature that will make their lives better. They can now move money around between themselves and their friends instantly. So FiSync is an instant way of moving money. Not only is it instant now, but we've also added a security layer on top of it. So now when you move money around in FiSync, before we do that, we're actually going to verify your name and your social against that account before we approve this transaction. So it's faster and it's safer. Did I mention it's completely free, by the way? I mean, we're giving it out to banks free. Just use it. And I kind of want to demo it. Before I demo it, I'm going to preface this and say, we've rolled this out last week. We've officially rolled it out to the public last week, last Monday. And right now, the first bank we've allowed to enter the FiSync network is Viridian, obviously because they're investors. We're trying to keep a natural growth rate on this because every time we enable a bank, we open up our gates to hundreds of thousands of customers. And that's exactly what happens. So I have a Viridian bank account. And I'm sure I timed out by now, so let me just log in real quick. Yeah.
So you guys are solving these banks' ridiculous problems, and you're giving it to them for free. This is to solve the problem.
It's like a two-way thing because we're telling them, hey, use this for free. But once you use it for free, we get access to your bank and your customers. So now let's say when Viridian turned this on, we got instant access to every customer in the Viridian network. When Bank of America turned this on, and by the way, let me tell you, almost every bank wants to implement this. They all came up to us. We're actually just moderating this out at this point. When a bank turns this on, they get instant access to new Dwolla accounts too. They can instantly link their bank account to their Dwolla account, all in one swift motion, and start paying you their instantly.
So you're saying banks are happy doing away with the float?
So what you're asking is why they didn't do it up until now, right?
No, I know why they didn't do it up until now, because they get to use your money for the time. When I say I pay something,
right?
Okay, I don't have interest on that. I don't get access to that money anymore. Until it clears, the 2 to 4 business days later, the banks have it.
Right. I would argue that
online bill payment and whatnot. Now, obviously, they must see there's an advantage to it now.
So I would argue that the reason we haven't seen this up until now, and I'm actually going to talk about this too.
Okay.
The reason let's hold on to this just 1 minute. So I have my Viridian Credit Union account. I have $100, $110. It's a lot of money for me because I'm in a startup. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to deposit into my Dwolla balance. Actually, let's do it the other way around. I'm going to withdraw $50 right now, and I'm going to send it to my Viridian Credit Union. And this withdrawal is going to happen in real time. So right now it's connecting to the bank, and then it's going to authenticate. And I've just sent $50 from my Dwolla balance into my Viridian Credit Union account. And let's refresh this from 110. Oh, they actually only update their balance once a day. But you see the $50 right here going to $160 balance. So instantly, I just moved $50 now. Something that up until today was impossible. It was impossible in the United States. Thanks.
If your bank is not on this network yet, you can't, right?
You cannot. True. We are rolling it out. Hopefully within 6 months to a year, we're going to start seeing a lot of major banks using it.
How about credit unions?
Yeah.
Credit unions, we see them as the same as banks. We are definitely going to roll out credit unions too. It's just we want to do it one at a time. We did start with a credit union. We do have a bond with credit unions. How did nobody do this before us? I mean, this is so basic. And by the way, we were talking before this talk. We were talking between ourselves, and Europe has something very similar to this. In Europe, the banking system is years ahead of us, right? You can move money around in Europe almost instantly. I think it takes like 5 minutes for transactions to clear, maybe a little more. But considering our ACH system, they're in the future. I mean, they travel into the future. So how did nobody here do this? I can't tell you for certainty. I could come up with these reasons. First and foremost, you have to be a non-affiliated third party. And what this means is that, let's pretend Bank of America came out with this protocol, right? And they said, hey, we came out with BAC, or PHI-BA, or whatever the hell they're going to call it, right? And they'll come up to Wells Fargo and say, hey, Wells Fargo, how about you use our service? It's awesome, it's fast, it's free. And Wells Fargo is going to say, are you kidding me? Why would we use your service? Or they're going to go to Capital One and they'll say, no, you're Bank of America, you're a competitor, why would we use this? So you can't be a bank spearheading this, okay? Other banks won't use you. Also, it's a super ambitious thing. We're talking about something that potentially touches every single person in the United States. Every single person. We have a lot of really big startups right now. Instagram just sold for $1 billion, $1 billion freaking dollars. And yet, it doesn't touch everyone in the United States. It touches only a small subset of people that use it. But this really touches everyone. There's way too many rules and regulations. So it's not a sexy place for a startup to be. Startups are supposed to be lean and quick and develop something and roll it out and test. You can't test this this isn't what startups are meant to do. So it's not a place for every startup who wants to make a quick exit. And finally, I'm just going to say it's probably also somewhat dumb luck, because nobody did this. We're the first ones who are doing this, and it's going pretty well. So this is the LaPHP meetup, and I actually finished our new PHP library. We actually haven't had an official one until now, and I just created our official PHP library. We're releasing it Monday officially, and there should be a blog post and maybe some PR, and hopefully people will use it. So I thought to celebrate this. By the way, if you didn't text, please text that number now. I thought to celebrate our new PHP library, we'll do a live PHP code demo. Now, I haven't programmed with PHP in a while, so if I forget a semicolon or this doesn't work, I apologize ahead of time. Hopefully, it won't backfire on me. I see some people texting me. Hold on for a minute.
Yeah, thank you.
Do you have a Ruby one?
We do have a Ruby one, yes.
Python?
If I text twice, you're going to send me twice the amount?
Yeah. Wait, no. I actually created a unique index on that. Sorry.
What do you want us to text?
Anything you want. Text me a personal note. I promise I'll read it later.
Text them
In
how
private.
much money you want to get back.
So, let's
questions?
What was the number again?
Oh, sorry about that. Here's the number. I'll do questions right after this, okay? So just a few more minutes. And yes, we do have shirts. And by the way, we're known as the shirt snobs of the startup world. And I'll tell you why while you guys are texting. So, our shirts are, first of all, really nice. I'm not biased at all, obviously. And they're actually silk screened. So it's really nice. And I only have a few shirts, a handful of shirts here. So I want to give this out. We're going to give this out to good questions. And I don't know if I'm going to find good questions, so we'll see about that.
I got the first one.
You do the first one. You get dibs. So, like I said, our API is really simple. I happen to have created, it's cutting off here. I created a set of application credentials earlier, so I don't have to waste a lot of time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to require my keys. I'm also going to require my database, and I'm using the PHP Care database extension. Sorry, yes, I can actually. Awesome. And what I'm going to also do is require my new Dwolla library. I'm going to create a new instance of Dwolla. And I'm going to put my token in it. Again, I've OAuth before just so we don't waste each other's time here. Now I'm going to grab all your phone numbers from my database. By the way, I use Twilio. You guys all know Twilio, right?
Yeah.
Twilio are awesome. We see them everywhere, and they're awesome. So the number I showed you guys was the Twilio provision number, and I'm just grabbing the phone numbers you texted from, and I'm throwing that into your database.
Should we expect a response back by text or
Do
not?
we get
Not
$1
yet.
credit?
No. What's that?
Are we getting $1 credit?
Dollar is ambitious. There's a bunch of people. I work for a startup, you guys. Come on, this is for my account.
Whoever says that gets a t-shirt, right?
Yes. I'll give you that.
You can send everybody a virtual t-shirt.
And what we'll do is Dwolla send, and it's pre-programmed here. I'll send it to the person. How much should I send you guys? I'll go with the 1 cent. This should be it. Let's get the response back from it. Yeah, Office Space, huh? If only I put that point somewhere else. And let's type the person's phone number so we know what's going on.
Actually, it's not that much office spaces. It's stainless steel wrap.
Okay, so
As you what?
Stainless steel wrap.
the next one.
Harry Harrison, science fiction from the 60s.
Oh, it goes right over my head. Sorry. And what we'll do is we'll grab a response off it, and just in case it was an error, because it is a new library that I actually have not tested in a while, we'll do echo error. Hopefully this will work, by the way. I missed. So this looks good to me. I'm just going to consult the library real quick to see that I got the right parameters off this.
You didn't ask us if we all have Dwolla.
You don't need Dwolla accounts. Like I said, if you have your phone number, I can send money to all of you to the phone number. So let's fire it up and see if it works.
Only one side?
Cross your fingers, really. Actually, wait, before we do this.
And then that 1 penny can only go to an account that's in the Dwolla's network.
So it's like that on the map.
30 people texted. First number just got 1 cent. Second number just got 1 cent. I'm just gonna let it run, but my phone's gonna blow up here because I get a push notification for everyone. So this is gonna vibrate like crazy. So again, really super simple API.
An iPhone app.
Oh yeah, we have an iPhone app, an Android app, a Windows app, Dwolla app. Yeah, we're actually pushing a new version of the iPhone app next week. So with a bunch of bug fixes and improvements, it's gonna be awesome.
Thank you. I received
You did? Great. So I just made everyone richer by a cent. I'm hoping this covered the text message cost that you pay to send that text message. If not, come up later. We'll figure something out. So we're really focusing on simple API.
Got my money.
I'm loaded.
Yeah, 1 cent's a lot. So that's it. Really, thanks guys for coming. And questions? Yeah. So you'll get your T-shirt. Wait, let me give you your
I
T-shirt.
got my money.
Purple or gray?
Great.
I don't know what size this is, honestly. Is it a large word for you? Sorry. Oh, by the way, I don't play any sports, so I can't throw shirts for shirts. Yeah.
How'd you guys raise working out here?
I come up to me later. I'll tell you. Not on camera.
I know you texted some money to the teacher, right?
Yeah, exactly.
It's a really good product. What you guys doing?
Thanks.
ACH concept, I got it. How do you guys plan to overcome where people, as you said, use credit card? Credit card gives 30 days credit, first of all, and of course, then you only have to pay X dollar on whatever they bill you for. So how do you guys plan to overcome that?
So we don't. Really, hands down, the bottom line is we don't. We're not a lending company, and we don't extend credit. We actually did that for a little bit. There was a product called Dwolla Instant we launched a few months ago. And what it was is, when you turn it on, you get a $500 credit line, and you can use it instantly. And all we ask for is that you return it by the end of the month to balance out your balance, your $500. And it went quite well. We actually got too many people on it. So TMG, which is again one of our investors who actually lended the money, shut us down because we had too many people wanting this. But we realized something when we did this, is that it's probably not what we want to do. I mean, we're trying to facilitate payments. We're not trying to recreate credit. We're not trying to recreate credit line. There's a bigger question here if that's what our society should do. I mean, I hate getting philosophical. I wish I'd done philosophy in college, but again, Jewish parents, philosophy is not really good for, as a backup plan, so I couldn't. The real answer is that we're not. If you live on credit, if that's kind of your lifestyle, then Dwolla probably isn't the right solution for you.
That doesn't solve that particular problem. That 16-digit number is still going to be used forever, right?
I mean, listen, if somebody's going to come up and build something on top of the Dwolla platform that extends, a certain credit to you, which is totally possible, by the way, we'll be happy to facilitate. We'll be happy to let him use our system to move money around. But we're a platform for payments. We're a platform for moving money around. Maybe somebody will do that. I mean, it makes sense to do it, right? Especially with pricing coming out.
Now you're going to be at one of the startup places suggesting credit card on top of Dwolla.
That would be awesome.
Their catchphrase could be "do business with a handshake."
Nice. Yeah.
How are you going to make money with a 25% transaction?
33 trillion in ACH last year. Enough that 10% of that is over $10, and probably a lot more than that. It's over $10. 25 cents off these transactions is a lot of money.
Yeah, but you're not going to get all of it.
No, we're not going to get all of it. But even if we get a fraction of it, it'll still be enough for us. It's actually a viable business model, and I'm sure
Yeah. There was no comparison to the charges that ACH is charging.
On FISIC, you mean?
Compared to FISIC. The FISIC, you gave the rates for yourself. You gave the rates for the exchanges used by Visa and MasterCard. But if ACH is also free, why wouldn't they just continue to use the existing ACH service?
Banks, you mean? Why wouldn't banks just continue using
Well,
ACH?
I can transfer money from one bank to another. But you can clear, instead of using FISIC, other organizations clear through ACH. What's their fee structure? Like, why is FISIC better?
So, banks do pay for ACH transactions, and if they charge you or they don't charge you, that's another point, another question. But banks do pay for it. There's a fraction of a penny cost for every ACH transaction that they do pay. Now, the question is, if somebody else wants to facilitate that transaction, what's in it for him? He can actually charge on top of that transaction. So if he's facilitating that, we have a feature called facilitator fee, which lets you add a sum up to 25% of the total and collect that for yourself. So if somebody's facilitating a FISIC transaction between you and me, our banks, and they want to take 10 cents off that for themselves, they can do that without actually touching your money. So they won't be the merchant of record. The money will flow from me to you, but they will still grab 10 cents off that. So everybody kind of has, or can find his own reason why it's better for them, about why they should use it. Does that answer your question?
No. I'm trying, because your FISIC is a competitor to ACH. ACH has all the banks on the network, every single one.
Yes.
You have like one for now, and then you're going to be building up.
Right.
I don't understand why ACH is...
Because ACH incoming, outgoing, some banks charge $25. Or some, like E-Trade, if you do trading.
Depending on your bank. Banks do pay for it.
Yeah.
The question
I just didn't see the rate structure. I saw your rate structure. I saw Visa and MasterCard's rate structure. I didn't see ACH.
Yeah.
But is ACH a major...
So
is it
let's say both of your parties are on Dwolla account, now it's going to be free for you.
What's that?
ACH is basically a club to which all the banks belong.
Right.
And it's financed as such.
But they joined, the second investor is their club that they joined, they gave them access to the system, right?
TMG?
Group, yeah.
Yeah, they actually are part of it.
So they're part of the club in that way.
Yeah, and that's how they're actually really close to the Federal Reserve, and they actually, I'm pretty sure they get direct access to the Federal Reserve when, in terms of ACH, and that's how we get to interact with ACH so quickly. So we are using ACH. ACH is what we're using right now. It's working, but this is kind of the evolution of it.
Oh, so you do use ACH?
Yeah, right now we do use ACH.
Oh, okay.
We do support all banks in standard ACH transactions. But the whole point of tonight's talk was to talk about phishing, to demo phishing, and show you what's kind of the next step of that, the next step of moving money around.
Oh, okay.
You glossed over rules and regulations as one of the things that can get in the way. How is Dwolla working around the government rules and regulations?
So there's a whole bunch of rules and regulations, right? Depending on what you mean. I mentioned the money transmission license, which I'm sure most of you are aware of. If you're not, basically when you move money around from one person to the other, you need a license. I'll get you next, okay? You need a license for that. 3/5 of all the states require you to have that license. And it's a different license for every state. It's a hassle to get it. It's a lot of money and all that. I can't say how we got around it. We are licensed to move money around. 2 years. It's 2 years of studying this and figuring out how to do this.
As a backup to do that.
But if I use Dwolla, am I implicitly conforming to these laws then? Is that what you're saying? Like by using Dwolla automatically, you are consistent with
We're
online
100%
transmission?
we're compliant to all regulations. We comply fully to KYC, which is the bank's PCI compliance. It's know your customer. We're compliant with money transmission. We're compliant with every rule and regulation that you need to do.
But I'm imagining that there's sort of like offline processing that banks do that's onerous. And so if I'm using Dwolla, all I'm doing is like API pings. Seems
Right.
pretty easy. Is there anything that I need to be concerned about if I'm moving money around, or like how do I know that I'm consistent with laws?
You're consistent with laws because you're not exposed to anything that might be legal in moving the money around. If we're not doing something right, if we're not compliant, it's actually on us. It's not on you.
Sure.
You're not exposed to that. One sec.
Okay, as I received your text message, I thought, how are you going to protect yourselves from phishing and impersonation? Because if I'm a dumb user, even I don't need to be a dumb user, I could be just somebody who hires employees and they do whatever they do, and then you send money over the phone. Oh, boom! I click on the link. I'm hacked. What are you thinking to do about that?
That's tough. I don't know that anybody has a clean answer for phishing, and we certainly don't have a clean answer for phishing. We're working on ways to detect fraud, and one of the ways we're actually talking about is kind of figuring out user behavior and sequences. I won't get into too much detail for this. I don't have a clear answer to give you. We have no strategy in terms of phishing. If somebody sends you a text message impersonating to be us, and you follow that link and you put all this information, it's almost as plausible as any other company being phished by any other company. We don't really have a clear answer for that. If something like this arises, we'll have to figure something out. Phishing is a problem. Unfortunately, it's still a big problem. We all kind of trust our Chrome browsers to alert us to give us that giant red message. Hey, there's going to be, this site's been flagged for malicious behavior. But that's really what we're counting on right now. Again, we haven't encountered this, so I can't give you a direct answer, a clear answer to this. I can't give you a shirt though. Sorry, I totally forgot about the shirts. Here, just come up and pick it. By the way, first ones to grab it, get it. I don't care. One second, yes.
So you mentioned international money transfer.
Right, international.
Yeah.
So here's the thing about international. We will be there. We just have to nail down the U.S. market first. We really wanted to get it right here before we go out and say, hey, banks all around the world start using it. And by the way, phishing will be compatible with every bank in every country. It's just a set of API. It's a protocol.
But
it's an API.
Can I add one more question? Is there anything that prevents somebody from, let's say I'm a Dwolla user, and I send it to my cousin who's a Dwolla user somewhere else?
How would you get money out of Dwolla then?
I don't know.
You can send it to anywhere in the
But
world.
you can transact. I mean, at the end of the day, moving electronic
So
money
there
around
is-
is as good as sometimes having the green in your hand. No?
There is a caveat to this. Yes, you're right. You could. If I send money to an email that's someone who's in England, he could definitely create an account and do it. But he actually can't create an account, which is a problem. Because when you create an account, part of KYC, know your customer, is that we need to verify your phone number. And the way we verify your phone number is using Ellison, which is kind of like Twilio, but they give you an added set of security features on phone verification. And we verify your phone. And it needs to be a US phone. And no, you cannot use Google Voice because we actually don't allow Google Voice to be a verified phone for that.
Do you use voice over IP?
We do allow voice over IP, but we'll probably take an extra look at your account to make sure that you're in the United States if you verify from a phone that's using a VoIP IP.
So you all are required to verify it's a United States user, not a foreign user.
Required, no. Part of KYC doesn't mean that the user has to be United States. We're required to verify your phone, which we do. We, as in Dwolla, decided that right now we're only in the United States, so we only allow U.S. phone numbers to be part of our ecosystem.
Because you could get someone here in the States that
You definitely
has that,
could.
that
Absolutely.
is a clearinghouse, and someone in the foreign country that's a clearinghouse, and if they have money on hands, all they have to do is make a phone call. Is he good for it? Yes. Okay, give him the money. And then whoever cares how long it takes to get the money from point A to point B, as long as you have that arrangement. And there are cultures that do that already. That's a valid banking system in some cultures.
Right.
So you just apply that to Dwolla and you're golden.
You could do that, yes.
Let's do it.
Are you guys building your own on top of Dwolla? This is great. You feel free to walk up and grab your shirt if you want.
CV, sure.
Oh, it's okay.
So, NFCs in near-field communication phones. We do. We're actually already in touch with a company that's kind of pioneering NFC in terms of Android. The way I understand, I'm actually an iPhone user. I've sold to the evil corporate of Apple, unfortunately, and I can't really get out now. It's a cult. There's something about NFC and Androids, right? If you want to use it if you want to use the outside realm of Google Wallet, there's something that's blocking you, and you have to root your phone or something and put like a mod on your Android to fully use NFC to translate whatever you want. So there is a slight problem with that. We are working on it, and we actually just pushed a new Android version of our app 2 days ago. It'll come. It's just there's a lot to do there, right? Because when you talk about NFC, I'm at the checkout and my phone just touched the checkout, the scanner, and now what? So I transferred. Let's say I mimicked a 16-digit account number, right? And the reader took it, and now it's feeding it to the point of sale system, the POS computer. And what is it doing with those 16 digits? So we have to either get POSs to know how to read Dwolla account numbers and interact with our Dwolla server, or we need to get credit card processors to know that every 16-digit number that starts with 4444 is Dwolla, and settle on our servers. So one of two really big things has to happen, and we're actually opting for the first. We're working on. We'll hopefully come up with a POS SDK too. So it's in the works.
So,
Go on.
well, I mean, phone numbers get reused, email addresses get reused. You have means to deal with that. You said that's all I need to identify someone to send the money.
So you can change your phone number, you can change your email address. If I send you money to your phone number and you haven't claimed it in 30 days, it'll automatically go back to my account. If I send you money to your phone number and I then realize that your phone number has changed, I can reclaim that money before you claimed it. Okay. So there's always a way to there's always a way to pull it back. That's kind of how we deal with that.
So this is sort of two-parter because I'm trying to understand this better. In terms of who is your target audience in terms of developers, what I mean by that is, unless everybody or a lot of people start using this and everybody has a Dwolla account, where does this get used except for people just transferring between one and the other? If this is sort of in a future vision supposed to replace credit cards, but not everybody's using it yet, is that a problem? Who is developers? What do developers build that you want them to use this?
So there's it's kind of a chicken and the egg problem, right? Because consumers won't really use it before stores implement this, and stores won't start accepting it before they see a bunch of consumers on it. And what's going to happen first? Again, no clear answer. Just like any startup that's facing the chicken and the egg problem. If you go to Iowa, shocking, Iowa, Des Moines, you're going to see almost every coffee shop and almost every restaurant in downtown Des Moines accepting Dwolla. So you can already pay with Dwolla to these stores. If you go to Florida, I know that, I can't remember in which city in Florida, there's a large concentration of Dwolla accepting merchants. Here in California, there are too. We have a spots map where we can see who accepts it. Who's our target audience? Who's our target market? Everyone. We realize that it's going to be a transition. We realize it's not going to be overnight. There's going to be some friction. We're learning as we go on. But definitely our target market is everyone. It's coffee shops, it's stores, it's people. Anybody who accepts money, anybody who moves money is our target audience.
Can we talk about
payroll?
But
sorry?
Can we talk about payroll?
We have thought about payroll. Payroll is a little difficult because most people use that, or most companies use QuickBooks, right, to handle the payroll. And Intuit has their own kind of ACH system. So it's kind of a hard sell at this point. We are working with other accounting software providers to kind of integrate Dwolla into that.
Ignore QuickBooks, leave them in the dust. Go with the others.
but
1 second, I just want to finish your answer. So I live in New York, right? And New York is known for a lot of independently owned coffee shops, independently owned stores. And a lot of these stores actually won't even accept your credit card for any transaction under $10 because it's not worth it to them. They might even be losing money on it. So really, anybody who might accept payments and it makes sense to them, that's our target audience.
So my question is, a developer, okay, I don't know about everybody else, I'm thinking, where can I implement this? And obviously, I build websites for various different clients, and if I want to implement Dwolla is to accept a payment for Dwolla as an online payment system, which I love. I think every website should have an online payment system. It's not just a credit card. But if PayPal, for example, wouldn't have given the ability to pay with a credit card, people wouldn't have continued to implement PayPal.
Actually, if PayPal wouldn't have offered $10 to every new registry, every new person in their system, then that's why.
That's how.
In my opinion, that's why they did. That's how they did it, right? Did anybody read the PayPal wars?
I think it's going to suggest that you give everybody like a penny to open a Dwolla.
That's so much better than $10, right?
No.
I mean, that's the brutal honesty. Listen, we're not going to give everyone $10 at this point. Maybe we will in the future. Maybe it'll make sense at that point. Right now, it doesn't make sense for us to give out $10 for everyone, and that's how PayPal got big, honestly.
But I can't pay using a credit card with a Dwolla payment system.
No, but you can use a bank account to pay using Dwolla to any merchant.
Okay, so you you do have to create a Dwolla user account in order to pay.
Which they can create for free, correct?
You can create for free, yes. I feel like your problem with this is that if you don't, you're thinking of it in the other way, right? If I'm coming to your website and I want to pay with Dwolla, and you're telling me, hey, if you pay with Dwolla, I'll give you 10% off because it makes sense to the merchant, right? Because he's saving on interchange fees. And I'm the user and I'm saying, sure, I'll pay with Dwolla. I want that 10% off. I don't have an easy way of registering a new account on your website. And the answer to that is we're actually working on it. We're creating a single-page registration checkout process, much like what PayPal has as a guest checkout, which would allow you to create an account and check out on one form, one kind of motion. So
I'm looking for a way to offer clients to receive payments online without having to pay 3% on every transaction.
This is your answer then. This is.
But people still pay with credit cards, and that's the problem.
They'll keep paying,
okay.
Unfortunately.
All right.
Sorry.
Yeah. Okay. Go on.
Okay. I think he was first. That's okay.
Go ahead.
I have a two-part question. Is 25 cents all in, so there's no additional fees from the banks, receiving or sending like there is with a debit card? And the second part of my question is, what about chargebacks, which is a big problem for merchants with credit cards?
Right. So 25 cents is all that we charge. Okay? If your bank charges you on this type of ACH transaction, you probably shouldn't do banking with them. I know there's, an ACH. I'm not I'm not all knowing on ACH.
My bank charges for ACH. And they charge a lot for ACH.
So there's multiple types of ACH, right? There's PPD. There's all these different types of ACH. And most banks, we're using PPD by the way, and most banks, actually the vast majority of the banks, do not charge for that type of ACH transaction. And again, if your bank charges for that type, I'll put it this way: we have every U.S. bank every major US bank in our ecosystem, and none of them have charged for our ACH transactions. So it's really 25
They're
cents.
just ripping off your customers. Oh, that's sad.
In terms of reversals, it's it's kind of the term when you chargebacks are like a credit card term. We'll talk about it's called reversals in the bank in like ACH transactions. The answer to that is that if there's a problem, if there's a reversal, if there's a dispute, we'll actually mediate this. We'll try to figure out what's going on, and we'll help you figure it out. We'll try to solve the dispute. There's no clear-cut answer on this. If there is a reversal, then we'll try to, we'll help you figure it out, and we'll see what's going on, and we'll try to fix it. We have a compliance team that does that. Yes.
Coming back to mobile security,
yes.
How about if you can, in your mobile apps, insert a small biometrics app that can access the fingerprints of the owner of the device? And that would solve a lot of problems. For example, if you change your phone number or if you change your device, it would be already attached to your original number, and then you can kind of verify that it's
I think you work for a security company.
No.
You don't?
Security though.
I don't know any phone that has a biometric scanner. If phones had it, or if people actually use those accessories, it would be awesome. It would actually solve way more than just this problem, which, by the way, you're right. If I had a biometric scanner, it would solve so many things. Hell, I probably would stop using password. If there was an easy way for phones to know that my finger is my own,